Alright. Looks like we... I'll just wait for your stream to start.
It's just started.
Alright, there we go, I can see. Jeez, oh no, that's the wrong one. I was about to say, wait, how do you have so many people already? I was clicking on something else. Right, there we go. And, whoop.
Right, there we go.
Whoops. Let's turn the volume down. Hello, Sarah. Welcome, welcome. The early bird catches the worm. Oh, hello, Brandon. Jeez. I'm sorry, were you guys waiting long? It's only 9 o'clock now. Okay. Had a
This is
mild
the first
panic.
time we've actually been on time in a long time.
Yeah, and I just had a minor panic attack because I thought, wait, were we late? Okay. Always make the mistake of opening Chrome. So guys, gets a hello Grandmoo. I love that name, that username, by the way. I almost want to go back to my grandma and call it Grandmoo just for. We're going to be going through a part 2 of enrichments. So for those of you that have just joined, so if you have your questions, have them ready. I noticed last time all the questions came at the end, which is unfortunate. So if you have your questions ready, please start posting them now. Right now. Okay. So let's get formally introduced. Welcome everyone to another creature feature with KP and Rieha and myself, JJ Tao. Hello, ladies in other land.
Cafe, thank you for the sub.
Oh, just like that, a sub. We haven't even started.
I know.
A sub has already happened. So yes, so as you know, this is streaming on both the YouTube channel and it's also streaming on KP's Twitch. Just offhand already, so because I know sometimes people drop off, will you be streaming after this event? I just think suddenly KP went mute. Or she's speaking to her fan.
Sorry. I'm back. Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about some videos for analysis after the stream. So, so yeah, we do that sometimes on our streams. So we're gonna do that after we're done here.
Okay, no, perfect. Okay, so again today we're going to be talking about enrichment. We had some questions that were followed up from last time, so we're going to be getting through those as well. But again, if you have any more questions about the enrichment of the otters, basically. I think that covers anything from the toys even to how the otters are trained, anything that stimulates their mind. That's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to try to keep it as on topic as possible, but obviously if we run out of questions, we'll open up the forum to a lot more other stuff. And we will be moderating the questions. Because some of your questions that come through are really weird. so we'll keep it teen. Okay, so let's get straight into. Rieha has the list of questions for us. You want to start us off?
Yep, continuing on from our last part 1 actually. This next question is, what are the animal's favorite enrichment?
Yeah, I mean, so much of that is like species based, and then so much of it is also individual animal based. So like the otters, as you know, like ice, anything that is frozen is a huge hit. And so oh, you can't hear. Sorry, Llama's saying that they can't hear the other people. Give me 1 second.
Oh.
Just 1 second, people. Normally I'm the one with audio difficulties. This
I
is
know.
refreshing.
It's because I changed all my overlays. Okay.
Can everyone hear us on YouTube land? Just before I start getting all arrogant.
Let's see.
Welcome, KSU.
We'll get it figured out.
You know, I'll just remind everyone that's joining us.
Okay, you guys can hear them now, yeah?
Hello.
Test.
Hello.
I'm pretty sure they can hear you now.
Booming voice!
I can see your sound. Yeah, we're good now. Okay. Sorry. So the question was, what are the animals' favorite types of enrichment? So, so it's really individual. Everybody knows that the otters love ice and anything that's frozen in ice, or even if it's just ice, they really seem to like that. So that's a pretty easy thing for. It seems to be universal for all otters, and then. Actually, pretty much any kind of frozen food enrichment. Our sea lions tend to really like ice treats as well, although they are less dainty with them than the sea otters tend to be. Our penguins don't really seem to like much of anything at all. They do. They like to chase things, so we have laser pointers and stuff that we can allow them to chase around, which is pretty adorable, cat style. And let's see, what else do we have? I mean, yeah, ice treats is a pretty safe bet with almost everybody. And then each individual animal has their own favorite things, and I won't bother going into that too much because we could be here for years with how many animals we have. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, there's a lot of things we think about. We think about the animals, and then there's a lot of just getting to know each individual animal as well to figure out what they like and what they like to do with their enrichment.
Okay, just going to very quickly cover it here so we get the cat out of the bag, because we're not on an official channel, but there are a few questions coming through about Mac and Newman. We all know why Mac likes Newman. I don't think we need to cover it.
We don't need to cover it. Everybody knows boys will be boys.
Yes, boys will be boys, and just like us, we're all animals. And but there is a question that came through. Let's just take a look here. I'm going to have to first read it silently to make sure it's web safe.
I love that.
Okay.
We need a flag for keywords.
Yeah, we need and obviously that question just came in. But the captive otters. So the question came from the captive otters really get into toys. Would wild sea otters be also attracted to trash in the oceans, or would wild otters not need enrichment because they're too busy to survive? Personally, I think the only reason they'll be attracted to trash is if they think it's food.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's an interesting question. So, they are incredibly enriched out in the ocean, and a lot of times that is sort of manifested in if you actually. This hasn't really been done in sea otters, but it's been done in a lot of other species, so I imagine that the same would be true. When you take blood samples from wild animals versus animals that live under human care, they tend to have an enormously high amount of the stress hormone and cortisol and stuff like that. Okay. And that's because the animals out in the ocean are more stressed out, and that is a form of enrichment. So they are constantly being stimulated, and not always in a good way. And so wild animals have higher cortisol levels, as a general rule. But sea otters are super curious, and people have seen them playing with trash, and in fact, there was a sea otter up in Alaska that was rescued after having a zap strap stuck on his paw that had to be removed. I think they called him Zippy. You can look him up. They ended up tagging him, and they actually see him every once in a while. So he's doing quite well. But yeah, so it's still totally possible that, I mean, sea otters are still weasels. They're still so curious about their surroundings. So yes. It's still totally possible that they find, I mean, we should just avoid ocean garbage. It's bad for everybody. And, yeah, they could also try to ingest these things, which is obviously not good for them either. So, so yeah, I mean, they are definitely more stimulated out in the ocean, but that doesn't mean that necessarily that they're not gonna find time to enjoy some mischief. So
yes, I guess at the end of the day, all animals want to play in some way. And I'm going to mention, by the way, that otters are weasels. I know we all know this, but it's my mantra.
Yeah,
they are weasels. They're so cute.
Yes, they are.
Rhea, over to you.
Yep, the next one that we had, it's talking about a video that was posted of a ball hanging from a chain above the water, and the otters would jump up and grab onto the ball and swing while holding it. And if this would ever be a thing at Van Aqua.
I'm guessing not, although I can imagine the memes, like Tasnado, like, I came in like a wrecking ball. Like, I probably not. So, like, there's a few things going on here. We always are trying to come up with new and interesting enrichment for the animals, but they have so much stuff, guys. They have so much stuff. And there's so many things that we can do with that stuff, even if we're just freezing that stuff or hiding some food, or, you know, there's always new things that we can do with old toys too that makes it interesting. That there's not really, like, this is like putting some kind of wrecking ball above the next to it kind of feels like a risk versus reward kind of a experiment. And I just don't, for the setup that we have, like, setting that up, it would be very difficult to do in a not dangerous way. I'm just imagining asking my boss about it, and like I'm just like the look on his face in my head is one of like complete disgust. So I really don't think it's probably going to happen. I know it's like a great idea, like on paper, but you know, there is the possibility of animals getting injured and stuff like that when we try to get like a little bit too elaborate with stuff. So yeah, and then there's like the ease of. One thing we also have to look at is for the people, like the ease of deliverability, I guess, because I can't be spending 3 hours a day like setting up a wrecking ball and then taking it down.
Imagine how that.
So yeah, so there's a lot of things a lot of factors that go into, like, a lot of people I don't think understand exactly what we have an enrichment program. Like there's literally like documents that we have on enrichment and stuff like that. There's a lot of thought that goes into this kind of stuff and a lot of factors. So for many reasons, I don't think the wrecking ball is going to happen. A lot of it also depends on your facility and what your setup is, and we're not set up for wrecking balls. We have 7 wrecking balls already. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. So I'm like, you already have the answers. But I suddenly just imagine Taz swinging, singing that song now. It's stuck in my head. That would be quite funny. But you've mentioned in the last AMA about that you do want to try, and I think that would be more interesting about the kelping anchored underneath the water or something.
Yeah, so we've asked about that. I need to find. So my boss is concerned that they will take those weights and they will smash through the glass, which is not a unfounded concern, but I want to find like because they have like the really squishy, like kind of rubbery balls that I don't actually think they'd be able to do that with. So we're still working on that. We have asked about it, and we are working on a workaround for how we could possibly do that. It's something that I really want to do. So. Okay.
Sort of an unrelated question, but I'll ask again. It popped up in chat. At what age do you see otters fully or physically mature?
So normally their moms will pretty much wean them and kick them out around the 6-month mark, but they're not fully grown at that time. So probably looking at about like a year and a half is probably just about as big as a sea otter is ever going to get. There's some like changes. Like Katmai's actually gotten a little bit bigger in her older age. Good for her, though. Good for her. But yeah. So there are some small changes after that. But technically speaking, like right around a year and a half, they're probably, physically full grown and sexually mature.
Yes, I think that extra bit on Katmai is the winter. Is the winter.
Yeah.
It's the fur. There's nothing.
Yeah, well, it's springtime, so she better start getting ready for her summer bod.
Yeah. I can just imagine the Katmai routine. Next question from Rieha.
Next question we got over here is, what kind of enrichment do animals that are blind and deaf get?
This is really, really a good question. So this really depends a lot on the animals as well. Like for Senor Cinco, he doesn't really seem to care too much about any toys or anything like that. He's very into eating. And so for him, I think the best enrichment that we can give him is different animals. So we switch up who he's housed with on a regular basis. I'm talking like the Stellar Sea Lions. And that I think is really good enrichment because they kind of like force interactions on him. So he's forced to be enriched, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So because he doesn't really, if given his choice, he would just live alone and just be fat and happy for like the rest of his life. But that doesn't mean that it's not still important, like we've talked about. So we have Bella, our youngest sea lion, loves him. It's the most adorable thing you've ever seen. And so she like forces him to sleep with her, like she cuddles up on top of him and like kind of irritates him a little bit, but she tries to play with him and he's never super into it, but I still think it's a good it's a good exercise for him. But like Jessica the harbor seal, who's also blind, she actually loves toys. She loves things that she can haul out on and float around on, and kelp toys and all kinds of fun stuff. So it's so individual based. And then we always just try to make sure we can also move the animals to different areas, and they're actually comfortable with several different habitats. We didn't start that way. We didn't start with like a blind animal and then just go, okay, now you're in a new space. Best of luck to you. But like through working through that, we've gotten them used to several different areas and comfortable in several different areas. So moving them to different habitats, but it is a little bit tamer, and they don't tend to interact with things quite as much as our sighted animals. But we still do think about it and try to make sure that their lives are enriched as well. So. That's a great question.
Okay, first of all, does everyone hear me now properly? Because apparently I did have quality of sound issues and I didn't know.
Oh no!
Of course, and it was me. Oh gosh, while we're watching the walruses pop bubbles. Everyone on YouTube land, can you hear me? Is my volume okay? Do I need to cuddle with the microphone? And now no one's responding. Anyone?
Bueller?
Viewers? Okay, we'll move on. Now, what was the question? Yeah, do their whiskers help them sense things during training as well?
I guess that kind of depends. Like, depending on the animal, I think that the whiskers are used a lot in like our blind animals in the training. They're following us with their whiskers. So the blind animals certainly use their whiskers a little bit more so than the animals with all of their faculties. But I think that they are all using them. But I think that if you have your eyeballs, those are like kind of your first, the first thing that you use, and so it might be hard for us to see that they're even using their whiskers for some of the other things that we're asking them to do. But yeah, I mean, I think it's very, very easy to see our blind animals using them, but I don't see the other animals using them, even though I'm sure that they are using them for something that like is imperceivable even to me. But yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, yeah, yes, okay. So my sound apparently is working. Thank you for that awesome question. That's the kind of questions you ask. Very quickly, my voice is different because there's an echo because it's coming through. Sorry, so sorted that out. You shouldn't be hearing the multiple voices. Next question.
Next question is enrichment necessary for animal development?
Yes. Enrichment is so important, guys. And what that, like, again, we kind of talked a little bit about this last week with enrichment is not just toys and things like that for the animals. So, like, that's something to remember. Enrichment is is so much more than that. And so even like the training sessions that we do with the animals, that is enrichment. When we do change up the social groupings, that is enrichment. But it like all of it plays into that. Basically anything that changes the behavior of the animals, like that alters the behavior in some way. So whatever they were doing, they're not doing it anymore and they're doing something different. That is enrichment. And it's super duper important because like everybody knows, you know, zoos and aquariums, they're different. It's different than the ocean. It's different than the wild. And I don't think it's better. I don't think it's worse, but it is different. And one of the differences is there are no predators. The animals have 100% access to food whenever they want it. So there are no challenges, essentially. There are no inherent challenges with, you know, with living at a facility. And so what that means is there's less to do. So we want to make sure that we're giving them things to do, things to work on, problems to solve. We try not to, you know, scare them to death with predators, like would be happening out in the ocean, but we can give them different kinds of puzzles and things to work through. And that type of mental stimulation is so important. So yeah, enrichment is huge. It's one of the first things that anybody should be thinking about when you get an animal at home or when you're working with animals in a zoo setting.
Actually, and it actually comes to that question, and this is from my own side as well. So thank you to those who responded on Twitter. Oh my gosh, people are using Twitter for us.
Yay!
Woohoo! I'm like, oh well. How isn't you've just mentioned the pet thing in that. Now, how important is it for an animal? Now, I know you sort of answered the question to actually have these enrichments and take them for training. In other words. Should they be training them at home? But is it something that is actually considered very important, more than just harbor tricks, so to speak? I mean, like we trick your little ferrets to spin. Yeah. Is it important to have that when you get a pet?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anybody who's getting a pet should be thinking about all these types of things, like how, like, just having a pet in your house. I mean, like I'm literally broadcasting a ferret enrichment session, like happening right now in my living room. Like this is so important. So they're not under any kind of like control. We're just letting them do their own thing, but we've provided for them like a variety of different things. They actually have a towel. So all you towel enthusiasts out there, the ferrets are allowed to have a towel, but so like doing these types of things on a daily basis. And it's actually kind of fun because now that I stream and we have a ferret cam, I think about it a little bit more. And so I'm like, okay, today, so I'm actually like planning it out, which is really really fun for me. But it's super duper important, and training is a good idea because if an animal is learning and thinking, again, they are problem solving. I guess, you know, it doesn't really matter if they're learning to do a simple spin around or sit down or whatever. All that stuff is still important brain development. But you can get pretty crazy with the training that you can do with your animals, and you know, they can learn to do things like scent enrichment or scent detection and stuff like that. I mean, you can do some really interesting things with your pets at home, but as long as you're making sure that like each day there's something different that's going on, because more so I think than even animals in zoos, you know, a lot of times we'll get comments about like, oh, the animals at the zoo, you know, they must be so bored. I'm like, well, you have a cat at home that hasn't left in 10 years and you don't do anything for it, you know? I mean, like they're
Yeah.
you have to like provide things, and whether or not that be like, we have rooms in our house that are closed usually, and sometimes we open the door and let the ferrets explore those rooms. The bathroom mostly they are not allowed in usually. So but like that's a form of enrichment, and so it doesn't have to be like crazy, you know. You don't have to set up giant plays like I've done here with the ferrets, but rotating toys is a very simple way to do enrichment. A lot of people just have their toys and they just let the animals have free access to the toys, but this isn't super enriching. You do it with your kids too. You have like a playroom that has all the toys. Well, if you hid half of those toys and then just rotated items in and out of circulation, those items would be inherently much more reinforcing because the animals, or the children in this case, same, don't have free access to those items. So rotating toys, very easy way to just make sure that your animals are enriched. So there's lots of little things that can be done. It's just not something that people often think about. They just get an animal, and then the animal just lives with them. But it's super important, and it helps to cut down on destructive behaviors, and it's got all kinds of benefits. So yeah, enrichment is vitally important for everybody.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Not only do you need to do this for animals, you need to do this with your children. And they will grow up normal. We won't take things for granted when we're older. Because, I'll have access to this all the time. That's actually...
it's true for even adults. You know, we need enrichment too. And so...
Well, I think it boils down to, because we both gamers, how easy it is for us to get bored of a game, but we'll revisit it 2 years later and be like, oh, this is amazing. I think it falls on the same thing. Ray, you have a question for us?
Yep. Next question is, do you ever give puzzle, or I guess it's like kind of like a problem-solving enrichment to the animals?
Yeah, so even though it might not seem like it, like any type of food frozen in an ice treat is a puzzle. Like they have to figure out how to get it out. So, but even if we do, like actually on my little video here, there's a video of a really large ice treat that Kunik is trying to get out. We've had some really really ingenious animals before, like so Kunik just tries to like smash things and just hold on to them long enough and win an enrichment that way. But when we used to give giant ice treats to Tanu, she would actually, so in Russell Pool, the upper Otter pool, there's actually like a tunnel underneath that haul out where the trainers stand. The animals can actually go underneath that area. I don't know if you guys know that. Yeah, so it's actually like it's hollowed out, so the animals can swim underneath that area. And she used to take those giant ice treats and she would wedge them in that little cave that's down there and just leave it there because she knew that they would melt faster when they were underwater. Like,
that is so clever. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, so super cool stuff. So that stuff is problem solving. We, like, as far as like puzzle feeders and stuff like that, we've kind of looked into the idea of doing some of these things, but we tend to do, you know, it's easier for us as a trainer to just go in and I can like hide food in different areas, hide it in buckets, hide it, you know, on different, you know, in different haul outs, sink it, whatever. And that's all good problem solving too. But yeah, problem solving as part of enrichment is a great way to incorporate that into their lives for sure. Because they would normally be spending, like, a sea otter spends like a third of its life looking for food, like trying to find enough food to eat. And obviously that is not true at the aquarium. They have a lot of extra time. So giving them something to fill up that time is like a responsibility of a trainer, honestly.
You actually raised a very good thing there, which I actually saw today, was Taz grabbing Newman and actually moving it up like as if she knew how pipes work. Like, you know, if I pull it in this way, it's going to get out the pool. So she literally used her paws to sort of like ladder it up. It was actually so funny she didn't pull it and then realize, oh god, I've run out of space. So she's obviously learned to use Newman. But with the foraging food, we have a question here. How about foraging of food as an enrichment? Is that not recommended for otters, or is that something you can actually do with otters? Like have them forage?
I mean that is a thing that we can do, and sometimes we've talked about it before. We don't have the ability to do it right now, but we do love to do live food enrichment with the otters. That's something that we have done and is really, really fun to do. But even like I'll often hide their food in different new and interesting ways, or even if we're just like we gate them out of the pool and then we scatter their food on the bottom, well then they have to go in there and they have to find it. There's like lots of nooks and crannies on the bottom and they really are having to look for it. So I mean hiding food is a great form of enrichment. And those types of sessions, if you actually watch them, they usually take longer than our training sessions because it takes a long time for animals to find and eat that kind of food, and so
Yes.
it's a great use of their time.
Okay, next question from Rhea's side.
This question is actually pertaining to the toys that you use for enrichment. They're asking about how you go about cleaning them.
Yeah, good question. So we usually it kind of depends. Like if an animal's only had a toy for like a hot second, we'll just give it a quick freshwater rinse and it's pretty good to go. But if they've had it in the pool, we know it's like been pooped on, or like these kelp mats that we're looking at on my screen. This is my nightmare to clean these things. Sometimes we have to power wash those things because they just get so much hair on them from these guys. But we do also have a disinfection that we use. It's Virkon. It's very dilute Virkon solution that we use on all of their buckets, on all of their toys, on anything that comes into contact with the animals. We also have like foot baths when we're walking in and out of certain areas that are Virkon foot baths that help keep everything clean. So Virkon's just a good disinfector, and it's super dilute, and then it gets rinsed, and then it's ready to go back in with the animals.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question here, slightly enrichment and that, but it's sort of psychological thing because it's happened 3 times, and I'm trying to find the clips for everyone, and we have one that happened recently. Every single time one of the otters covers himself in those kelp stars. On 3 occasions, the other otter has got a fright.
Oh my god, we watched that video. Was that just last?
Yes, that was this week.
Oh my god, that was so funny. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. I don't know why they like to wear things on their heads. I mean, honestly, so do kids. So there's something. Yes. There's something about putting things on your head for some reason. And I don't know why none of the other animals are ever expecting this, even though they all like to do it. And that's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen.
It's hilarious. There's actually 2 more I'm trying to fight. Joey got a fright once when Taz came up and she had it on her head. It's happened twice before, and I was like, there must be something to that.
It is so funny. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but it's the best thing ever. I hope they continue to be terrified by other animals wearing things on their heads.
Absolutely. I was trying to draw an analogy that possibly it's just like us if we had to see our furniture move across the room and have no idea why.
Yeah, but I'd like to think that we would figure out why when it's happened multiple times. But I don't know. It's so funny though. I don't get tired of it. We watched that clip like 6 times.
Yeah, I know. It was so hilarious. And just the way he rubbed his face and turned around so easily, like, what's going on? Oh my God! What was that?
It's great.
Okay, so maybe a more serious question from the audience. So that was a personal one. Are the toys used specially for stimulating touch sensors in the paws of like the otters? Is anything...
Yeah, so if you're, I don't know, JJ, if you're pulling my my enrichment video feed like through on your channel, but so just a little bit ago, and maybe I can just go back to the video. There we had a video of this video is the Jello is not just for eating, even though Hardy loves to eat it. That's a tactile sense. It's something that's very different. And then this brush board that we brought is a different thing that they hadn't really felt before. And you can kind of see they're tentatively sort of touching it. They're a little bit nervous about it. There's absolutely, there's different kinds. There's taste enrichment, there's scent enrichment, tactile enrichment. Somebody was asking about audio enrichment, and whether we can do that, and that's absolutely something that we can do. Tactile enrichment's, it's maybe a little underused, but there are some times when we think about it, and it's fun to watch. Like, this is something that they had never really had before, and you get to see them interact with it, and they're of course they're a little nervous, but it's but that's good. Their minds are working. You can just tell that their minds are going into overdrive as they're trying to process all of this information.
What is this porcupine type thing? And
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if it's Joey or Taz, one of the small ones.
she kept repeatedly hitting her snoots, like figuring out, hey,
Yes,
this thing
I know.
bounces.
There's an audio on that too, and we're like, why is she doing that? Like she keeps smacking her face on it, and then she just continues to do it over and over and over again. We're like, all right, well, whatever, you weirdo. But it was Taz, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's snoot. There goes
Yeah.
that question. Ray, on your side?
Yep. Next one we have over here is, since penguins aren't very food driven, how do you do enrichment for them?
Yeah, so our enrichment for them looks a little bit different. It doesn't usually involve food, because we can't rely on them to, like, if I tossed fish into the water, they would just leave it there. And then I'd have to go get it, and so yeah, we don't do that kind of stuff, but we can still do. We've given them Jello. It's another tactile thing. They're a little bit concerned by the Jello's presence, but we've done that before, and that's pretty fun to do. We have a lot of toys for them that the other animals can't have. We have like wind up, like mechanical animals and like cars and stuff that we can give them that are pretty fun for them to kind of like chase and be interested in. Let's see. What else do we do? We have, like I said before, we have the laser pointer, which is a big hit. They like to chase the laser pointer. Sometimes we just bring things around to the front of their exhibit and just show them to them. Like giant boomer balls or like all kinds of stuff like that. What else do we do? I mean, ice. Sometimes we'll put ice on the haul out, and do things like that. So they can have a lot of the same things. They just don't necessarily interact with them in the same way that the other animals do. So even if they're, just like tentatively walking on the ice, that's actually like, they're interacting with the enrichment, and that's like, that's a successful enrichment session. So that's where you just have to like look at the animal and know that there are differences. So you can't base the success of your enrichment session off of what other animals would have done with it, because penguins are just a little bit different. But you can still enrich them, or like everybody knows, having office penguins, whenever we bring our penguins to the office and just have them walk around in a new area, is also a really great enrichment for them.
And just before you know it, a penguin will start to be interested in doing filing, because they're formal. They wear the little suits.
Yeah, I have. Sometimes I'll put Hope on my lap when I'm doing records, and she looks at the little mouse as it's going across the little icon
the
across
screen,
the
and like,
screen.
oh,
Yeah,
ooh.
super cute.
I think one of the trainers, because a lot of you have Instagram accounts, including yourself, need to put a video of a penguin chasing a robot. You mentioned that now, and I'm like, I have got to see a penguin chasing a robot.
I can try to do that.
Okay, so again, let me just filter this question first. The elevator music. Oh yes, does the use enrichment change by aging of the otter? So is there something you do with older otters than younger otters?
We are going to do enrichment with them no matter how old they are. Their interactions with that enrichment might change. The things that they like to do with the enrichment might change, just based on their energy levels and things like that. But I've never really had an animal like just be like, I'm too old for enrichment now. Like I've never really seen that happen before. So yeah, but we might think about, like, I don't know, maybe if an animal gets quite old and they've got some like dental issues, as you might get when you get older, we might think about no ice treats or really small ice treats, stuff like that, just to make sure that they're being like safe. But yeah, there's never going to be a time when they don't get enrichment, and I've never seen like animals be like, yeah, we don't like enrichment anymore, I'm too old for that stuff.
Do any of the otters ever get bored of previous enrichments they used to have when they were younger, basically? So like, I don't do that anymore as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if they get bored with something, though, that's probably more of an indicator that we let them have it for too long, or we, are failing in some way because really if you're rotating things, like they shouldn't really get tired of enrichment, or get bored of it in any way if it's being properly like rotated around. So not really. There are of course items that like we can't give towels to grown-up otters anymore. There are some like those cute little octopus and tiny little crab that Joey and them used to have when they were really young and used to be able to just like hold on and chew on. We can't give those to them anymore because they would just be shredded into 1,000 pieces. So there are things like that, but I think they would absolutely love to play with those things again. I think that's more we just can't give it to them. But yeah.
Okay, well, there we go. That's question. Good question. Thank you for posting that question as well. Next, Ray, on your side.
Yep. Next question on the list is, do the animals at Manakawa react to mirrors? And like, are they spooked by it or interested?
Yeah, so we do have mirrors. And the tricky thing is we can't really give them the mirrors like one-on-one. So usually when they're interacting with the mirrors, it's like in the underwater viewing area. But they do seem interested in the mirrors, whether or not they're like thinking, hey, look, it's me, or hey, it's another sea lion, or just hey, this is a weird thing that's happening right now. I'm not really sure. But yeah, we do have some mirrors that we can provide for the animals. Sometimes with like our cetaceans, our whales and dolphins and stuff like that, we can put them in the water, and it's fun to see them like kind of like looking at them, stuff like that. But yeah, mirror enrichment is super fun. And we do that for all the animals at the underwater viewing windows.
I've done mirror enrichment with my bearded dragon, and she cared about it for all of 2 seconds before I think she realized, oh wait, it's just me. And now she just sits and looks at it and like, well, I'm gonna go to sleep now. So, and I did the whole put 50 minutes in, take it out, give it back the next day. After a while, she's like, no, that's me. Leave it.
Yeah, I'm done.
No interest.
I'm done. But even like, it's hard to say though. Like maybe her looking at it, like maybe she is getting enrichment out of it. Like it's just because she's not like interacting with it necessarily doesn't. This is what I try to remember about the penguins, because the penguins are so like just whatever. Like they don't hardly like play with anything, not in the sense of the word that I think of it as. So like, you know what? I should give the mirror to the penguins. This is a good idea. I'm gonna try this. But like, them just like looking at enrichment, I've learned to like count as a success, because they don't often interact with anything at all. So if they're actually actively staring at it, I know that they know that it's there and that they're thinking about it. So
yeah, so that's different. I noticed that speaking now we're just talking about my pets now apparently. My bearded dragon is more interested with the side of my PC, that glass, and you can see the color through it. Then she stands on it and scratches it. So yeah, I basically paid $2,500 for a enrichment for my bearded dragon.
Well, that's nice. You get enrichment out of the PC, and
while she's on the side staring at it like, what is this?
Beautiful. 2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly. It's just I wish you wouldn't scratch it so much.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a question here. Compared to human, how are otters hearing? Okay, they ask how are the animals hearing, but I'm assuming the otters. How are the otters hearing? Do they hear things louder than we do, or are they roughly the same?
I think they're more sensitive to sounds than we are, for sure. They can certainly hear things that are happening underwater, which may be like sometimes we've noticed that the animals know when we have like a big truck parked in the driveway, which is, like hundreds of yards away. And it's probably because they're hearing the vibrations, most likely underwater. So I think, especially underwater, I think their hearing is far more keen than ours. But I think they're also just more perceptive. So yeah, they have excellent hearing as a general rule, and that is something that we have to like think about. Sometimes we'll be up at a training session and the animals are all just off and you're wondering why, and then pretty soon you find out that they're power washing on the roof and it's made the otters lose their minds. So there's so that yeah, they absolutely have different senses than we do. It's something that we think about for sure.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And thank you for that question again. Next question from your side, Rhea.
Yep, this one is okay, so this was mentioned before, and I remember this from Billy about he used to sing to Joey. And so people are asking about even if the animals are desensitized towards noise, how would they be with music?
Yeah, I think in general, like having an affinity for music is something that is a uniquely human trait. Or I guess not necessarily human, but it's there's very few animals that have an appreciation for music. I'm just thinking now that there are birds that really like music and stuff like that too. But yeah, I mean, that's adorable though. Billy still like sings to the animals. I've seen it happen. Just the other day, I saw him like having a full conversation with Bella and like hanging out with her. But adorable. So yeah, I've never seen like an otter or a sea lion or any of those types of animals have any reaction to music. Sometimes we because we're closed now, we have like this portable like boom box that we'll just like carry around with us to different training sessions and just jam out, and the animals don't show any difference in the way that they're behaving. So I don't really think that music I think to them is just different sound. It's just more sounds put together in a funny way. So yeah, I've never seen any kind of special reaction to music.
I think it's almost in the same value of when we talk to plants. I think we're just providing the plant carbon dioxide. We're feeding
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't think that the plants really react to
yeah. They like the sound of my voice, yet it's like, carbon dioxide, feed me more.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we got a couple of minutes there, but this is a question outside release and it's been public knowledge now. Have you met the new otter yet? Or it's a question.
The new otter that came in at like midnight last night?
Yes. At midnight, everyone.
I did not get out of my bed and go meet the new otter. No. I did get a message about it last night. I have photos. But no, I have not met her.
Yes, and just very quickly to the people that are asking all those questions, if you go on the MMRC Discord, click on the patients tab, and you'll see the information about her and very cute pictures. She's very long and very skinny. She should be called Pencil. No, don't please don't suggest that. There's other name suggestions, but she is very, very cute. But yeah, I had a few questions in a row. I just want to see. So guys, I know you're talking about it here, but let's go back to talking about enrichments for the last 10 minutes. But if you do need to see her, she is on the MMRC Discord under patients. Last night, midnight apparently. Shame, at Port Hardy. So we can't name her Hardy. We can't name her after the port. We already have Hardy.
No.
What are the chances?
Yeah.
Okay. Ray, you got questions on your side?
Yep. Actually, we still have quite a bit more. So it might be a bit more than 10 minutes worth.
Oh, please carry on. It's up to KP as well.
This one is when an animal is alone, is enrichment more important? Does it happen more often?
Yeah. So this is a great question. Yes. When animals are alone, I think that enrichment is super important. It also kind of depends, like, on the animal a little bit. So like for instance, I don't know, if you had like a completely solitary animal, I'm just trying to think of like an example, like a crocodile or something like that, like then maybe it's not as important. But with animals that usually live in a social type setting, we try to spend an enormous amount of time with those types of animals. Like just what was it, Saturday, me and Jess went out and literally spent like an hour and a half dancing with Helen the dolphin, and just hanging out with her for just like an hour and a half, like just the world's longest play. And we brought a bunch of stuff, and we just danced and had a good time. And so yeah, so those are things that factor in. So there are animals like the sea otters who I'm totally happy to just walk up there, toss them like 6 buckets of ice. I know they're going to be super duper happy, and I can just walk away. But then there are other animals that it's really nice to spend some actual time with and make sure that they're getting like some extra attention. So that's absolutely something that we think about. If you've got like a really awesome social dynamic and a really awesome habitat, like our Stellar's Bay habitat has one male sea lion, and then we can have like up to like, I think we've had up to 5 or 6 female stellar sea lions in there at a time, and that social dynamic is always shuffling around, always changing. The habitat is super dynamic. We do not actually spend a lot of time enriching those animals. They're plenty enriched already, and they don't need our time. So we do try to sort of dedicate our time to animals who are maybe in like less dynamic habitats. The otters are a good example of animals that have great habitats, great social variability. They're often in different habitats, moving around, doing different things. So they're animals that we don't necessarily have to focus an enormous amount of attention on for enrichment, or we can, we have better time spent with different animals. So for sure, yeah. I mean, I think depending on the animal, but I think in general, animals that live alone are in need of extra special attention. Yeah, good question.
Okay.
Please be reasonable with your names. Does the change of like having different trainers around? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They react differently to new people. New people behave differently. They know if we go on vacation, they seem to react when we come back if we've been gone for a while. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think like on a day-to-day basis, like if you're just talking like, oh, it's been 12 hours since I've seen you, like Rachel, that usually doesn't happen. But for longer changes and stuff like that, yeah, absolutely. Like or brand new staff, the animals definitely treat differently. They try to take advantage of new staff, honestly. But yeah, it's absolutely something that can be enriching for them. People, yeah.
People. It's like, yes, people can be used. Can everyone hear me? All of a sudden, everyone was like, I can't hear you again.
Oh, really?
Hello. Yeah. I unintentionally had myself on mute, and yet everyone else can hear me.
There's a petition right now on my chat to name the new otter KP. Please do not.
Oh my gosh.
Also, can you imagine how angry like the staff and everybody would be if it was named after me? Please don't. Please don't.
Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. Okay, yes, we can all see it. I like how the comments come in late, so there must be a hectic delay. Because I'm just like,
there's a little bit of a delay.
there's me trying to go to fix things when we're back. I was just explaining we had asked the question for those that missed it and you might not know the context of the answer, is whether or not staff is an enrichment for the otters when they change shift. And also to go on the Instagram account of MMRC and Vanaqua to give your name suggestions for the new otters. That's what we covered. Oh my god, when the walruses and the seals play with those balls and bubbles.
I know.
Yes. So you had next question from your side, Rhea?
Yep. The next question that we got over here is, do the vet staff visit the animals and participate in their enrichment?
Oh, this is a great question.
Yes.
Yes, but maybe not as often as we should. This isn't the vet staff's fault. The vet staff is incredibly busy, and a lot of times, like I think they anytime we ask them to just come out for a play, they get so excited. So it's something that I wish as trainers we remembered to do more often, because the vet staff so often is only coming out when something bad is happening, right? We're doing vaccinations, we're doing, a procedure, and the animals know. The animals know those are the vet staff, and they know that scary things tend to happen when they're around. But like the more that we can have them out for plays and things like that, they can actually, it increases the reinforcement value of those staff. So, and usually whenever we're like, hey, we're just gonna go hang out. Do you guys want to come hang out with the animals? They're so happy to come do that too. It's enrichment for the vet staff, because the vet staff doesn't like to be the bad guys for the animals. They love the animals. So, so that's absolutely something that we do sometimes. A lot of times too, if we're doing things like blood samples or vaccines or whatever, after the vet staff takes a blood sample or gives a vaccine, we let them finish feeding the animals. So so the animals get a bunch of food from them, and hopefully walk away thinking that's the lady with all the snacks instead of that's the lady with the sharp needles. So yeah, I mean it's the same thing as when you got a lollipop at the doctor's office. Like we try to do something similar with our animals, but yeah, so not as often as we could, but we do really try to do that. And it's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. You can continue with the questions there, Rhea.
Alrighty.
My side is
the
turned
next
into...
one.
Yeah, carry on.
The next question on our list is, although people know that the toys between adult animals and baby animals are very different, are there any specific kinds of geriatric enrichment for older animals?
We've talked a little bit about a sea otter in particular that lived down at the Oregon Zoo, who had a basketball and a hoop that he was trained to put the basketball through the hoop to help exercise his elbow joints that were getting arthritic in his old age. So there absolutely can be stuff like that. I've never yeah, I mean, we've had like older animals, and I've never really had animals, like I said, that I pretty much, especially with otters, like throughout their lives, ice and ice treats are like their favorite things. I think I do find maybe as they get a little older, they treat those things a little bit differently. So I think when you give a younger animal a giant pile of ice, they tend to play in it. They tend to spray it around and eat it and dive around in it and have a really good time. And then as they start to get older, you give them a pile of ice, they immediately fall asleep. They're like, yes, this is, and that's still enrichment. They're hanging out in the ice and using it as a napping mechanism. But yeah, so maybe just the way they treat their enrichment items is a little bit different. But I haven't. Not that I can think of. I can't think of an animal just getting tired of a certain enrichment or anything like that. But yeah, there are definitely different ways that they approach their enrichment as they get older.
And you can continue with the questions, right?
Yeah, I know. I was reading this one out. Let's see. This one is since Van Aqua has been closed, how has the enrichment changed?
Oh.
This is a good question. Honestly, I don't really think that it has. I think enrichment has always been a huge focus and continues to be a huge focus. I think we probably do a lot more underwater plays now. The animals are very interactive at the underwater windows in ways that they never have been before, because I think they get a little oversaturated when there are people there all day long. They're just like, whatever, there's people here. They're always here. But now that there aren't that many people around, when somebody walks by the windows, they pay attention. So I think maybe we're doing a little bit more of those underwater plays. But we're still just as focused on enrichment. I mean, it's a huge part of the animals' lives and always will be, regardless of whether or not we're open or not. But yeah, that's a really good question. I think the only thing that's different is we also have space to do those underwater enrichments. We can't really do them when there's hundreds of people standing around. So that's something that's really, really easy for us to do now that we love to do and is super interactive for the animals.
I've got a very quick question from our side, which I immediately lost as I'm reading it. Wouldn't older otter become less patient with the younger ones eventually, like with the way they play with each other?
Yeah, I think we do see some of that, but I think in general, like, if the older animals are not at all interested in engaging with some of that younger rough and tumble play, I think the younger animals tend to leave them alone. Like, I think they can pretty well see who's in charge, and also if they're not getting what they want, like they're not getting reaction from a certain animal, then that's not any fun for them. They'll go bother somebody else who's going to give them the reaction that they're looking for. It's kind of that, like, talked a little bit, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about like least reinforcing scenarios when it comes to training. And I think older animals tend to be very good at just ignoring, ignore the little ones, Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we did see like earlier on, like with Joey's screeching, that some of the animals were getting pretty fed up with that. Like, that's enough, knock it off. That kind of a thing. So the animals can absolutely put each other in their place if they need to. And there is a hierarchy. So sometimes, it's not, the hierarchy's not respected, but usually the older animals will put them in their place.
All I want to know is Queen Katma in charge? I know.
Absolutely.
It's normally the
although
males.
I will say there's been an unfair depiction of her as being like this benevolent, like sharing being, and Katma does not share.
No. I think that was a whole joke as well, the fact that she doesn't.
Yeah.
So obviously, and how she's so elegant and innocent, but I think you've told me that she actually was very destructive when she was younger.
Oh my gosh, yeah. She's more of a, like, she's kind of like do as I say, not as I do kind of an otter. Like,
so she is still queen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh gosh. Sorry, Ray, go back to your question. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I was just thinking about, like, in that whole hierarchy and everything, that Taz basically just runs anybody over.
Yes.
Yeah, Taz doesn't have respect for authority, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's absolutely sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we kind of covered just about everything for the enrichment. There are there's a few more down here. This one is, which otter or otters are most excited for enrichment activities?
Oh man, I think they all love this stuff. Katmai gets really, really stoked. I think all the girls. Like, I think the boys tend to be, as I'm thinking about it, tend to be like just a little bit more laid back. And the girls tend to be just a little bit more excitable. So I feel like the girls are always the first through the doors when we open up the doors for an enrichment session. So, but they all love it. But yeah, the girls are just a little bit more excitable, I think.
Okay, we have one question on this side. Which one do you prefer as an enrichment? Do you prefer giving mental treatment to the otters or physical sort of enrichment? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I really like giving new stuff to them, giving them things that they've maybe never seen before, or presented in a new way that is interesting and innovative. And I really love giving giant ice treats. I think giving them something that's going to take them hours to whip through is some of my favorite enrichment, because I know that they're going to be preoccupied, and it's such a great use of my time to spend. If I spend 15 minutes making this treat, it has to freeze, of course, for an extended period of time, but it takes me very little time to make it, very little time to actually deliver it to the animals, and I know that they're going to be occupied and engaged for hours. I think that's the stuff that I get excited about, because that means that I now have more time to do that with another group of animals, or I have more time to go clean something that's looking really, really gnarly, or stuff like that. So I get really excited about the efficiency. The efficient use of my time is something that has become really, really a challenge for us right now, but also really rewarding when we can do it properly.
I think those people that like to associate animals with humans, one day a child's going to walk in the room and see a giant ice block there with his toys buried inside, and will this happen the same way?
What's kind of funny is sometimes we used to when it's a little bit of a hazing thing. You really probably shouldn't do it anymore, but when we used to get new trainers, this is years ago, we used to do stuff like that. People would have their when you get your bridge, your first ever whistle, your trainer whistle, sometimes the other older trainers would find new and sort of harassing ways to give those to us, whether they're frozen in an ice block. I saw somebody have to get theirs out of an ice block. They attached mine to a live crab that I had to go wrestle for. So yeah, trainer enrichment.
Well, the crab got to have fun too. Oh, what, you want me to play? Okay, cool. Let's just
yeah.
Just really quickly, Wendy, I'll link it to because she's asking the questions, are trainers from different zoos exchange info and ideas? That was in the last AMA. There was actually a question totally dedicated to that, but I'll link it. I'll put it in a card. So when this is finished, I'll put it as a card. You can go look at the previous AMA about that information.
And short answer is yes.
Yes. They do exchange. Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, everything. They exchange information. So yes, at least we know there's not sort of a rivalry. We can talk about other aquariums here, people. They're all here for the same thing.
There's no rivalry. There's no competition. We're all in it for the same. We're all in it for the animals.
Yes, except the sea otter rivalry that was happening on Twitter. That was beautiful. Who had the prettier otter?
Yeah.
Okay. Ray, do you want to round us off with a last question or so for the show?
Yes. So this would probably be our last enrichment question, but we do still have some general questions to cover after.
Sure.
This one is as enrichment, because as enrichment, do you ever mix animals of different species together?
Mm-hmm. And we do this with certain animals. So our harbor seals and our sea lions do live together at times not, at times they do. So that is absolutely enrichment for them. I think maybe more so the harbor seals. The sea lions, I don't usually see them interacting with maybe Bella bothers them, I don't know. But yeah, so multi-species is definitely a thing that can be considered. For a little while, this will make you guys laugh. For a little while, they actually talked about putting the penguins and the otters together. We as trainers, we had to talk them down from it because we didn't really want Katmai to be like, just plucking all the feathers out of all of our penguins. But there are instances where this is a really good idea, but it's not as simple as just like throwing all the animals together. You have to look at compatibility and, whether or not I don't even know. I don't think there's another animal that I would consider putting in with a sea otter. Like, honestly, like sea otters are so, like, weasels, man, are just so crazy. If they can cause trouble, they will. So I don't know that I would subject any other animal to the wrath of a sea otter. But there are more, like, our sea lions and our seals are pretty laid back. Those animals, like I said, can coexist together. Our fur seals have also lived with our harbor seals. So basically, when you have an animal like a harbor seal who's just like super chill, that makes that a lot easier. Multi-species habitats are great ideas if you can find ways to do it safely for the animals. And that can be a really great way to keep all those animals enriched too. But I don't think it's in the cards for our sea otters. They already live with crows and seagulls and stuff. Like, they're fine.
Yeah, because there was a comment, or a question that popped up on the Twitch that's pretty much pertaining to this mixed species enrichment, and it was about seeing clawed otters and orangutans.
Yeah, that's at Paradisa in Belgium. That one's funny. I would have never personally thought of this. It seems to be working out for them, which is really cool. But my first thought is that an orangutan is just going to launch one of these like Asian small clawed otters across the map. But they seem to be like genuinely interact with each other, and I haven't heard of anything awful happening. So, but yeah, that's a super cool like thing that's happened. And so sometimes when you take chances and try new things, sometimes you get really awesome results. They have, like, I've also seen they have an exhibit where the grizzly bears live with the wolves, which is kind of crazy to me. And they have had some fights break out with those animals. So there are risks and rewards for these types of things. And is it necessarily a bad thing if like they have a scuffle and then they realize, oh shit, well, I'm not going to mess with the bears anymore. Maybe then it's still a very enriching. I don't know. So it's one of those things. Multi-species is something that's very up and coming, and becoming very prevalent in zoos, and I think it's super cool. A lot of zoos too will do it so that it looks like it's a multi-species habitat. Like, you could have it so that it looks like the zebras are in with the lions, even though there's some sort of like hidden moat situation or something like that. And that kind of stuff is super cool too. Disney's Animal Kingdom does a really good job of stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's definitely something that we have talked about. I just don't think the animals that we have, I don't think are good candidates for that, other than the harbor seals. And I wouldn't even subject a harbor seal to the sea otters, honestly. I wouldn't put anything in with the sea otter.
Yeah, even just standard stuff. I think you even mentioned the last AMA about why you would never want to mix penguins with sea otters. It's more of a danger than it is an enrichment, I believe.
It's not really like, I don't know who would be benefiting. I mean, the otters might have a great time, but that's not like at the cost of the poor penguins and their feathers. I don't think it's a really good idea. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we can round off the questions with Rieha very quickly.
No, that's
Oh, that's it?
pretty much all of the enrichment. We just have some general questions that weren't particularly enrichment.
I would like
Sure.
to very
Questions.
quickly apologize to everyone. You will get the stream in 2 parts because for some reason my stream dropped for 2 minutes or so, a minute, and now it's reconnected. So you're going to get this in 2 parts. I'll join it up later, but I'm sorry for those that might only see this later on DVR. But yeah, let's go through the general questions.
Okay, so this question came up last week, and it's about how do the otters accept the red board?
So the board is actually a trained behavior. So they are not like, they're not necessarily born knowing what it means. So what we try to do with the red board is we try to teach them that going away from the red board, basically when we present the red board, that means go into the water. And what happens when you go in the water is you get some type of reward. So we will usually feed them when they have a really good response to the red board. So the red board is kind of like a last ditch sort of effort, but it is actually considered a behavior for the animals. And it's also one of those things where when you hop into a car and you forget to put your seatbelt on and it dings at you until you put your seatbelt on, and then once you put your seatbelt on, the dinging goes away. That's actually a training technique, and the same can be said about the red board as well. So we're going to be coming with the red board until you go in the water. As soon as you're in the water, the red board is gone. So that's another training technique that we use for them too. It says so your cars are training you to put your seatbelts on.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, it's true. And so we do have to actually train them to respond to the red board. And anybody who's seen Joey's lack of response to the red board, especially early on, or back in the CFI pools, it was he had no idea what it meant. It was not really
he was just jumping over it.
Yeah, it was a non-existent behavior. So we do actually have to train that because they don't really care. They don't give two licks about the red board when they first arrive with us, for sure.
Someone just asked, why do you call it Gandalf? Please Google the meme. You shall not pass. It's that one. That's what's called
hilarious.
Gandalf.
I didn't know you guys called it Gandalf. That's so
call
funny.
it Gandalf. So that's why. If you Google it, it's a very, very popular meme that you shall not pass. So basically just write that across the board. Carry on, Rhea. So
This is the second part to that question. It's what do you do when an otter refuses to go back into the water?
Yeah, there's several things that we can do. First, you want to look at the situation. Like I was kind of saying earlier, there are some times where things have scared the otters. People on the roof, they don't tend to like that. If we've got big machinery moving around, that can be really scary. So maybe they're afraid to go back in the water. And if so, we might just hang out with them for a while and until they've decided that they're not as scared to go back in the water, because it's not really if they are really that terrified of going in there, we don't want them to be in a terrifying situation. Or are they just looking at the situation? Is sometimes we'll be honestly, sometimes this happens with whoever's in the pool with Joey. Okay, they're probably tired of Joey, so maybe we should switch up the social groupings, or maybe they're tired of whoever's in the pool. Maybe we just need to change the social grouping. So we always try to look at why it's happening. It's not usually just because they're rebellious teenagers and this or that. It's usually there's some reason that they don't want to be in there. So what is that reason? So there's a lot of things that we might try to kind of rectify. Usually we will try to get the animal to go back voluntarily, where we can actually reward them for that, and in a positive way that way. Or we can use the red board if we're listen, you need to be paying attention. Or we can just wait. Sometimes I'm a big fan of this. sometimes I'll literally just stand there, especially if like we first open the door to go do a feeding and like Taz breaks out and she just like wants to like roam around the trainer area. I'm like, that's fine, you're not eating, so you can stay out there while all your friends have snacks, and then once you decide that you want some snacks, you can come hang out with me, and just kind of waiting her out that way. And eventually she goes, oh, like there's nothing out here and nobody's come to play with me and I do want some snacks, and she'll usually come back to the water that way. So there's so many different tools and things like that, and like we could go into like a million different things that we're thinking, and when we're thinking about the psychology of the animals and stuff like that. But those are some of the first things that I think about when an animal does not want to go back into the water, is like why and what's my best route for making this happen. Because if we just boarded them every single time, you're not really teaching them anything.
Yeah.
But when I sit there and wait and Taz makes the choice to come back into the water, she's learned something. So that's usually our preferred method. Now, do we always have time to do that? No. So there's a lot of things going on when we think about that.
But you mentioned something good.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry. Carry on, Rhea.
Oh, no. I was just saying, I do remember when somebody was doing repairs on one of the roofs, and Joey like freaked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was
and so
living under the
no
trainer's
sense.
feet.
Yeah, and so it's very easy for us to tell, like, oh, okay, this is abject terror. Like, we're not going to force the animal to go somewhere that they're really afraid of. So what can we do? And we've actually done like ladder desensitization and people on the roof desensitization with the animals, but Joey hasn't seen that as much as the other animals. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we consider when when an animal refuses to do a behavior. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, and that was definitely one of the cute scenes, because you could see Joey was like constantly staring at whoever was on the roof fixing something, but every once in a while, food would come to his mouth, and he would eat it like he was watching a horror movie. Eyes not leaving, but
or the popcorn,
yes,
oh my god,
oh my god, what is that? I'm still gonna eat, but I don't want to be anywhere near there. It was actually cute. But you just mentioned something, so there is some value. The otters do sometimes get annoyed with another otter, and they want to leave. Like, I've had enough of Taz and Joey. I need to leave, because I've seen a few times they're like, basically put up against the glass window. I don't really feel like they want to escape to go somewhere else. I feel like they want to escape the pool.
Yeah. I mean, getting away from the other animal. I mean, that's why we try to change up the social dynamic a lot. But yeah, I mean, there are some of our younger animals are a little bit more. It's funny too, because you'll see like if you put animals in with like the calmer animals, you'll see them like relax and sleeping and like just hanging out. And then you've got the other pool, which is just like a typhoon. It looks like a washing machine in there with like all the action that's happening. So yeah, sometimes animals need a little bit of a break. So yeah.
Okay.
Next question that we have here is, it's about the live food, and that like Taz has had 2 sea urchins. Katmai stole one. I don't remember when this had happened, but they're like, at what age approximately might Joey get to try one?
Yeah, so it's not an age thing at this point. It's just a matter of live food is expensive. It tends to be very, very expensive for us to do. And the financial situation is dire at the aquarium right now. So it is very low on the priority list to get these animals that item. They are plenty enriched without live food enrichment. I hope that it will happen at some point. And sometimes there are like sometimes we've like YVR has like confiscated crabs that people were transporting illegally, and then they donate them to the aquarium. And sometimes like lucky things like that can happen, but that's very, very rare. So yeah, I don't have an answer. It's going to be an opportunistic thing, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to let you guys know beforehand so you can come and check it out. But it's not really an age related thing so much as it is a monetary related thing right now.
So it's safe to say to if you can, please to continue to support these organizations because they really, I think, relying on us. I know it was, but maybe you can clear it up. You did mention you're getting some assistance from the government, but it's absolutely not enough at all.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on exactly how much, but the government has got a lot of things. Like they're trying to help so many places and so many people right now, and the aquarium needs millions and millions of dollars. So so they're any opportunity that you can use to help. If you do donate though, it's probably not going to go towards live food enrichment because again,
Of course,
that is like lower on the priority list. But yeah, I mean, donations are huge right now, and then especially if we have another 24-hour care patient at the Marine Mammal Rescue right now.
Yes.
That's more strain on us as a facility, not just monetarily, but time wise as well. So.
Okay, right.
Yep. Next question. This is about transporting the otters when you put them into the carriers.
Sure.
This person had asked if it's a form of enrichment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think we don't do it necessarily as enrichment. But absolutely. I mean, they load up into little their little kennels and we wheel them around. They get to look at different things. People are walking by, things are happening. There's different equipment and stuff to look at as we wheel them. And then we're going to like a new place. We're usually going to the back or we're going to the vet office. So yeah, I mean, whether or not they enjoy that type of enrichment, I'm not really sure. But again, enrichment is something that is doesn't necessarily have to be super fun to be enrichment. So I think it absolutely is a form of enrichment. I would love to walk them around. It's something that I've tried to get my boss on board with, but I keep getting shot down. But we'll see what happens. So I'll keep bugging him.
When that day comes, we need to see that on Instagram somehow. Like,
absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay, there are some questions here we'll save for they're not entirely related, but very quickly, I think I know this one. Maybe Cape, you can tell me what's the difference between a Northern American otter and a Southern American otter, or I think you're talking about a Southern otter and a Northern otter. The Southern otters are smaller, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, they are slightly smaller. And so they are slightly smaller, but it would be very difficult to tell if you didn't have them side by side. And their heads are also just a little bit different shaped. So if you had the pictures side by side, or if you had the animals side by side, you'd probably be able to tell the difference. But just looking at, like, if you're just out in the water looking at them. But yeah, the southern sea otters do tend to be a little bit smaller.
Okay, we got 2 more questions left. Let's round this off.
Yeah, so the next question was just, do they shed seasonally?
Not so much seasonally, but year round. So I don't know if you guys have seen, I do this a lot. Like if you see me out there with a hose, especially like on Russell Pool for like 30 minutes, it's because there's so much hair. It's disgusting. And then I know for a fact, because I've heard the engineers complain about it, when they clean out the filters, there is just hair. Like everywhere. It's like cleaning out your bathroom drain. So not so much like, it's not like they shed, it's not like it's shedding season. They pretty much are just constantly shedding year round. So yeah, but shedding is something that happens. There's hair on everything. All of those like kelp sea stars and kelp mats are just covered in otter hair. Otter hair is everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, so our last question is just do the otters ever injure themselves on ice or any of the surfaces in the habitat?
Can they injure themselves on like enrichment? Yeah, I suppose it would be possible. I trying to think if I know an instance of this having happened, in particular at the aquarium. I know that there are animals that have died from kinds of enrichment that have been given, like sea otters at various different facilities, and so that is something that that's probably why I know there's probably some frustration with how stringent we are about our enrichment and what animals can and can't get, but it is because we do not want nobody wants that to happen. I'd rather have the animals have the same tired old ice treats than to be physically injured by some kind of enrichment, or worst case scenario, actually pass away from like really dangerous enrichment. So not really at our facility, or I guess there is a possibility. I think it was it Rialto that broke a tooth recently?
Oh wow.
Or I can't remember, but he had a tooth removed recently. I think it was Rialto, or it could have been Hardy. That could have been from an ice treat. I mean, they do break their teeth out in the ocean all the time, so there's a possibility that that was a product of that. But that's not really like, that's not really a reason to not give them ice treats. Sometimes weird things happen, like he could have just bit it in just the exact wrong way. Sometimes we have seen after they've eaten an ice treat, there's just like a little bit of blood in their mouths, like they accidentally bit their tongue or something. I mean, who hasn't done that? So there are really small things like that, but in general they're very hardy animals. There's like, you would have to really it's very difficult to injure a sea otter. They have such thick fur, and they that it's very, 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 very hard. But there's been like little things like that where they've been like, oh, just a little cut on the tongue, or oh, you bit your cheek, and stuff like that. But that happens to everybody.
Like superficial things that even we are accustomed to having.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we're going to round off here. I just wanted to answer really a question. When we're talking, because there's been a few questions about the donations, it's the adoption program that has ended for now until the season start. I would encourage, keep visiting the Van Aqua websites and all the other websites to see any donation links there, because there are some of them that are still active. Just to check that. I don't know if there's any input you want to give to that site, KP, but it doesn't mean I think donations have ended.
No, donations are certainly never ended. And you may see, with again the addition of new patients, you may see an adoption program come back up in the near future. So definitely keep an eye on that. But donating to the Marine Mammal Rescue Center is something that anybody can do at any point in time. It certainly has not ended.
Yeah. So please visit the website, look for the donation links, and you can actually see it there. But we're going to round it off here. So folks, I thank you for joining us on this stream. KP is going to be continuing a stream on her side. She's going to be sharing a lot of nice videos as well. But also, if for those of you that were asking questions about the new Otter MMRC channel, go visit Patience, and you will you'll see pictures of our little skinny otter that looks a cross between Taz and Joey with the whiskers. But yeah, please jump over to her channel if you want to carry on seeing some very funky videos. I think you're going to be doing videos about animals or
yeah, we're going to do, a lot of times we do videos for analysis. So my chat has submitted videos that they'd like me to talk about on stream. And if you guys want to submit those in my Discord, is a great place to do that.
Absolutely. I'm posting a link to Twitch now. Go take a visit. And thank you as always, KP, for joining us. We'll be back here next week with something new.